Good evening, book lovers of the internet. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because for every subscriber, I get a new subscriber and they also read a page from a book of my choice. So this is video number 100 on my channel, and I would appreciate it if I could get 100 likes on this video. And in this one, I am not going to be reviewing any book, but I am going to be speaking about 10 things in books that absolutely bother me that I think everybody could do without, or that perhaps need drastic changing. The first one is praise at the start of a book, or praise replacing a blurb at the end of a book, especially when it is pages and pages of praise. I mean, I'm the sort of person who likes to read a book before I can judge the book or review the book and give my opinion about it, and other people's opinions of the book won't really make a difference to me. And when it takes up a lot of pages at the start of the book or when it replaces the blurb at the end, that really bothers me. Of course, I don't read all the praise, but still, it is completely unnecessary. And if a book is good, it should just be able to give off that vibe for every reader without needing the praise or without relying on important figures in the literary world to say special stuff. The second thing is um, about the author segments towards the ends of biographies, autobiographies, or memoirs. You've just read the entire book about the author. Why do you need further information about who the author is? You should know by now, because if you don't, you haven't read the book well enough. And it's not something that's at the beginning of the book before you even know anything about the author. It's at the very end, once you've read at least 200 pages about the author's life. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I think of it as completely unnecessary. The third one is when books in the same series don't match. So, for instance, when you order three books in a trilogy from the same publisher, and the third one or the second one is larger than the rest, or one of them is in a hardcover, maybe because the paperback isn't yet out, and that bothers me because why shouldn't they match? Or some of them have numbers on the sides, the others don't. The fonts of the titles change as well. That is completely unnecessary, and it also bothers me when it comes to reading and the presentation of the books in my own library. The fourth one is books that are overhyped on Book Talk that also tend to prove that some people have never read a book in their entire life. So when you see certain books, especially the ones which have a lot to do with smut, people like Colleen Hoover, for instance, or books that are absolutely generic or have been published for years now, and they still get a lot of praise because it's like they have this original concept that's never been heard of before. And they are overhyped on TikTok as though if you don't read this book, um, you'll never have a proper understanding of what reading is all about and you're not a proper reader. That isn't the case at all. There are many books out there which have never been mentioned on BookTok or TikTok or any other platform which are way better than the ones which are. And I completely condone people who overhype an author to an extent where they ruin the writing with their own praise. It kind of defeats the purpose of us appreciating literature as readers. The fifth one is fonts that are way too small. So I have certain books, for instance, that I buy because of how relatively short they are, I suppose. Just a couple of pages, maybe 200, 300 pages, but then the font is extremely small. And in my head, I'm thinking this should have been a book. I'd rather it have been 500 pages long and have a proper font than been 250 and have a small font I can't really read with or engage with, or completely ruins the aesthetic of reading. I can't really imagine what's on the page. For instance, if I were to take this book by Lee Child okay, called Reacher, Killing Floor, this one has very good font size. Other books don't, I suppose. Shish, Eva. Sixth one, I mean, books that are thick but not floppy. So this is kind of like the next point I'd like to make. When books are extremely thick, they're meant to be floppy. I don't want to crack the spine. Once again, it's all about the aesthetic of the book, of the way the book looks on your bookshelf. And when thick books aren't floppy, for instance, the Game of Thrones books tend to have this issue. The spines crack, and that really annoys me. I really dislike that. It might not show as well on camera, but still, it's something that publishers should be aware of. Number seven is stickers on covers, or even at the back of books for that matter, both the ones that do come off and the ones that don't. Stickers don't belong on book covers, they just ruin the whole aesthetic and the vibe of the way the cover should look like, and it should be something publishers should take care of, especially the stickers which are like 2 for 1, or buy three get one free, or £5 off, or something like that. That's a complete turn off for readers, and publishers should be very aware. Or, for example, very inspired, heavily inspired by Hunger Games or by Divergent. Stickers like those, they don't belong on book covers. They at the very best, they should be part of a blurb or maybe on the inside of a book, but not on the cover or the back of the book. Number eight, footnotes in fiction books. Now, footnotes do bother me in non-fiction books as well, but they bother me even more in fiction books. I mean, I am meant to be reading a story, imagining it as though it's a movie in my head, and yet every few pages I have to take note of what's at the bottom of the page just because the author had something else he had to say that he couldn't really make part of the story. Doesn't really work for me. Publishers should also be aware of this and maybe add them all towards the end instead of as footnotes. I really dislike that. Number nine, people on covers of books, especially romance books. So people do not belong on covers either. Um, I suppose one is meant to sell a book by very beautiful art on a cover. People just don't make the cover any more aesthetically pleasing, and they don't add anything to the cover either. So that should be something that has to be mitigated, and the covers should be more about the plot rather than about the characters, especially if the characters are portrayed as real people. That's horrible, in my opinion. And finally, the price of books nowadays. Whenever I go buy a book, the prices are always higher than the previous time I go to buy a book, and I go to buy books very frequently. At the very least, I spend about 14 euros on a book, and it's very disappointing because reading should be something that's accessible for all. Now, I know that there are libraries, obviously, and you can read online as well, but this isn't something that everybody is comfortable with doing. And in my case, libraries aren't as well equipped. So, for instance, I have a better library at home than I do than the one that is meant to be for the public in the location I'm living in. So, I'd much rather buy the books, even though they're expensive. But number one, I do not have an alternative, and two, I think that reading should be accessible to everybody. But this isn't the case, especially where I'm from. So, if you have a similar issue, please do let me know. And we'll talk about it in the comment section. Anyway, those are 10 things that bother me about books, whether it's about their aesthetics or whether it's about the way they look on my bookshelves, or let me know whether they're relatable to you in any way. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Please do consider watching the rest of my videos, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully very, very soon. Bye, guys.